All right, folks, welcome to the Red State Finance channel. Today we will be discussing if buying a home is a good investment in 2026. If you're listening to this right now, chances are you signed up for our newsletter at some point, which means, first of all, thank you. You didn't have to show up, but you did, and that means the world to us.
This is our very first episode, and we're building something here. Not just a podcast, a community. A place where real people can talk about real things. Politics, the economy, your money, your future. Without someone rolling their eyes at you, without being fact-checked into oblivion, and without having to whisper your opinions like you're confessing something embarrassing.
We're kicking things off with one of the biggest financial questions millions of Americans are wrestling with right now. Is buying a home actually a good investment in 2026? Because let's be honest, the American dream used to be work hard, save up, buy a house, build wealth. Simple, right? Except right now, we've got mortgage rates that feel like they were designed to hurt you, home prices that somehow never came down, even when everyone said they would. An economy doing its best impression of a roller coaster, and a geopolitical situation that makes everyone a little nervous about, well, everything.
So, we're going to dig in. We'll look at where the housing market actually stands, what the numbers are telling us, and most importantly, what all of this means for you and your financial future. Is it still worth buying? Is renting the smarter play? Are there opportunities hidden in this chaos? Stick around. We're about to find out. This is Red State Finance Episode 1.
Are you constantly obsessing over whether 2026 is the year you finally buy a house? Or maybe you're feeling totally terrified that you're just missing out on the American dream?
Yeah, that is honestly the dominant financial anxiety right now. We're seeing this massive tug of war between what the actual economic data says and, well, what society expects from you.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive is threefold. First, we're going to decode the reality of the 2026 housing market. Second, we'll analyze the immense social pressures dictating these home buying decisions. And third, we're going to break down the harsh hidden math of what a house actually costs over 30 years.
Right, and we're using a really solid stack of recent video analyses for this. We're pulling from real estate commentators like Jeb Smith, Jack Morgan, RLP, and Freddie Smith. It's a great mix of hard market data, raw financial breakdowns, and some pretty eye-opening lifestyle commentary.
Yeah, everything from inheriting property to literally living in a van. And look, we want to set the tone here. This won't be a dry financial lecture. It's a reality check to help you make the biggest financial decision of your life without losing your mind.
Totally. And before we get into the emotional baggage of home buying, we need to establish what the playing field actually looks like for you right now.
Right. What is the 2026 market reality?
Well, Jeb Smith breaks this down perfectly. After the absolute terror of rising rates in 2022, and then the affordability mess of 2023 and 2024, 2026 is finally looking like a balanced market.
Okay, balanced. What does that actually mean in numbers?
So Realtor.com is noting an average of 4.6 months of supply, and mortgage rates ended 2025 around 6.15%, according to Freddie Mac. So the overarching theme for 2026 is modest relief, not a miracle, just relief.
Which is funny because I feel like so many buyers are waiting for a miracle. They're waiting for 3% rates and 20% price cuts to happen at the exact same time. It's like waiting for a unicorn to deliver your mail.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen. Jeb points out a really harsh truth about that. For a market crash of that size to happen, it usually requires a massive economic gut punch.
Right, a recession.
Exactly. Something nobody actually wants to live through. Because if prices drop 20%, it probably means you lost your job and the bank isn't giving you a loan anyway.
So true. But if it is a balanced market, that still gives buyers some power, right?
Oh, definitely. A balanced market doesn't mean houses are dirt cheap, but it means they are rational. You finally have the leverage to negotiate. You can ask for closing credits, and you can avoid those insane bidding wars on junk houses that we saw a few years ago.
But we should caveat that real estate is super local.
Very local. A balanced national market can still mean you're competing against 10 offers in one specific zip code, while 3 counties over, sellers are slashing prices just to get people in the door.
Which perfectly leads into Jeb Smith's golden rule, which I love. Stop timing the market and start timing your life.
Yes, that is the core of it. You need real stability. Job stability, income, relationship stability, and you need a 5 to 7 year time horizon. If you don't plan to be in that house for at least 5 to 7 years, it is a bad move, regardless of what interest rates do.
Right, because the transaction costs alone will eat you alive. So if 2026 requires this rational stability, why do so many people feel this panicked rush to buy a house right now?
That is the social pressure cooker.
It really
the
is. Like there's a
psychological side of
specific
this is
anecdote from
wild.
Jack Morgan's video that just hits the nail on the head. He talks about those social interactions where someone announces, hey, I got a new place, and everyone gets excited. But the second they clarify they are renting, the whole room just gives this condescending response like, oh, I didn't know you were still a child.
Yeah, that societal equation that renting equals failure is so toxic. Renting is actually just patience. It's a strategic move if you don't have that 5-year horizon yet.
But people are so afraid of that stigma. And it leads to some crazy situations. But let's talk about the two extremes the sources brought up. The trapped homeowner versus the rich van lifer.
Oh, the trapped millennials. This is such a huge issue right now. So many people bought homes sight unseen in 2020 during the remote work boom. They moved out to the suburbs or the country.
Because they thought they'd never see an office again.
Exactly. And now employers are rolling back those policies. But these people are trapped by their 3% interest rates. With rates at 6 or 7% now, they literally can't afford to move closer to their jobs.
It's the golden handcuffs.
Yeah. And then on the total opposite end, Jack Morgan highlights this growing movement of van life. He talks about a 28-year-old who used to own a $500,000 house.
Wow, at 28.
Right. But he felt completely overwhelmed, so he sold it, moved into a $25,000 self-built van, and cut his living expenses to like $200 a month.
That is extreme.
It is. But he saved $40,000 in a single year. He built a multi-six-figure net worth and is basically dodging that standard 60-year work grind.
I mean, I get the appeal of the savings. But let me push back a bit here. Are we just being sold a peer-pressured version of the American dream either way? Because sure, van lifers are stacking cash, but living in a van isn't practical for most people. But then homeowners are getting financially choked by sudden plumbing disasters. How do you separate actual financial intelligence from just wanting to look like a successful adult at dinner parties?
That is the perfect question. And Jack Morgan actually shares a personal story that strips all that glamour away. It's about the reality of landlord life.
Oh, right, the Florida townhome.
Yeah, so Jack inherited a townhome in Florida. Most people hear that and think, jackpot. Free passive income.
Just collect rent checks on the beach.
Exactly. But it turned into an absolute nightmare. He was trying to rent it out and immediately had to drop 10 grand on countertops and paint. He's dealing with half-working ceiling fans, maintenance issues constantly. He realized very quickly that being a landlord is incredibly expensive and insanely stressful.
Which completely shatters the illusion that property is just this magic wealth-building machine. And I think that is the perfect transition to the actual math. If we ignore the social pressure and just look at a house as a math equation, it gets pretty scary.
It really does. We need to talk about Freddie Smith's raw numbers here. He exposes the true hidden costs of homeownership over 30 years.
Walk us through his exact thought experiment, the $1.5 million break-even scenario.
Okay, so you buy a $450,000 home with $50,000 down.
Pretty standard.
Right. So you have a $400,000 loan. At a 6.5% interest rate over 30 years, you are going to pay over $500,000 just in interest.
Wait, really? Just in interest? You're paying more in interest than the entire original cost of the house?
Yep, that's the amortization math. And it gets worse. Add in another $150,000 for property taxes over that time.
Oh, man.
Plus $150,000 for homeowners insurance. Then you factor in about $200,000 for maintenance, appliances breaking, replacing the roof, the HVAC system, and maybe 50 to 100 grand for basic remodeling.
Because no one wants a 30-year-old kitchen.
Exactly. So the total cost to you out of pocket is roughly $1.4 to $1.5 million. And the crazy part, in 30 years, based on average appreciation, that house might be worth around $1.4 million.
Wow. So a house is basically a forced savings account. But it's a piggy bank that constantly demands you feed it new roofs and toilet seats just so you can break even 3 decades later.
That is exactly what it is. And we haven't even mentioned the biggest wild card, which is HOAs.
Oh, the hidden traps. Jack Morgan had some horror stories about those, right?
Unbelievable stories. Going back to that Florida townhome he inherited in 2020, he saw his monthly obligations for taxes and insurance skyrocket to $1,750.
For a townhome.
Yeah, and then the HOA demanded $6,000 per unit for new roofs. Just a sudden special assessment. And when people couldn't pay it, the HOA just financed it and tripled the monthly HOA fee. It went from $200 to $600 a month indefinitely.
That is terrifying. Because as an owner, you have absolutely zero control over that.
None. He had a friend who faced an $8,000 building assessment, and their dues doubled from $450 to $900 in 2 months.
So hearing all this, renting starts to look a lot more appealing. What is the actual verdict on rent versus buy? because renting isn't free either.
Right, it's not. If you rent at $2,500 a month for 30 years, it costs you about $900,000. And you have zero equity to show for it.
$1 million gone.
Gone. And while renting frees you from those surprise $8,000 assessments, it leaves you incredibly vulnerable. You have landlords raising rent, you can face eviction, or the owner could just sell the house out from under you.
But there's a data point from Jeb Smith that we really need to highlight here. He points out that homeowners have a median net worth of $400,000 compared to renters at just $10,400.
Right, the wealth gap is staggering.
So if a house is just a break-even forced savings account with horrible HOA risks, how are homeowners so much richer?
It comes down to human behavior. It's not because owning is magic. It's because most renters lack the discipline to take the money they save on maintenance and property taxes and consistently invest it into the stock market.
So the homeowner is forced to pay their mortgage every month, which builds equity. But the renter takes that extra $500 and goes on vacation.
Exactly. They inflate their lifestyle instead of buying index funds. The math works for renters, but human psychology usually fails them.
That makes total sense. So to pull all these threads together for you listening right now, 2026 is a rational market that rewards prepared buyers.
Yep, the decision to buy shouldn't be driven by dinner party social pressure or the fear of missing out. You need to take a cold, hard look at your own job stability, your 5 to 7 year life plan, and your ability to handle the true hidden costs of that 30-year math.
Absolutely. And I want to speak directly to you, the listener, for a second. Remember that waiting is not failing. If you are renting right now, use that patience. Build your down payment, improve your credit, and build up a solid cash reserve so that when you actually do buy, you have leverage. Only buy when the payment works for your life today, without needing some magical future refinance to save you.
That is the best advice you can take into 2026. And I want to leave everyone with a final thought to ponder long after this audio stops. If the traditional path of homeownership is essentially a $1.5 million break-even forced savings account, one that completely dictates where you live and work for 30 years, will the extreme cost of entry eventually cause an entire generation to fully abandon the concept of the forever home? Will we just shift to lifelong mobile rental networks, completely collapsing the foundational idea of the American dream?
That is a wild thought, and it's exactly why you need to do your own math and tune out the noise. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time on the Red State Finance Channel.